There's a gap in most retirement plans that doesn't get talked about nearly enough. Not a gap in savings, not a gap in investment strategy. It's the gap between the day you stop working and the day your income sources kick in. For a lot of people, the gap is 3, 4, maybe 5 years. If you haven't planned for it specifically, it can force you to make decisions you didn't want to make, taking Social Security earlier than planned, or selling investments at the wrong time. Today, Jerry and I want to walk you through what this gap looks like, why it catches people off guard, and what you can do to bridge it.
Say you want to retire at 62, Social Security. If you're delaying it for a higher benefit, might not start until 67 or 70, that's up to 8 years of a gap. Medicare doesn't start until 65. So if you retire at 62, you have 3 years where you need to find and pay for your own health insurance. And if you have a pension, it might not start immediately either. Same with some annuities or deferred compensation plans. So you've stopped working, income has stopped, but your expenses haven't. Mortgage, property taxes, groceries, utilities, insurance, travel. Your life doesn't pause just because you retired. That gap between your last paycheck and your first reliable income source is what we call the retirement income gap. And for many people, it's the most financially vulnerable period of their retirement.
Let's talk about the healthcare piece specifically. This is the one that surprises people the most. If you retire before 65, you lose employer-sponsored health insurance. Replacing it can be expensive. Your options are staying on your former employer's plan through COBRA, which typically runs for about 18 months, but can be very costly. Buying a plan through the ACA marketplace, or getting coverage through a spouse's employer plan if that's available. A marketplace plan for a couple in their 60s can easily cost $1,500 to $2,000 per month in premiums. That's before deductibles and out-of-pocket cost. Over 3 years, that's potentially $50,000 to $70,000 alone in premiums. This isn't a reason not to retire early. It's a reason to plan for it. Because if you know that cost is coming, you can build it into your retirement budget and make sure you have the resources to cover it.
So, how do you actually fund the gap? There are several approaches, and the right one depends on your situation. The first is what we call a bridge account, a dedicated pool of money set aside specifically to fund those gap years. This is typically a taxable brokerage account or savings account that you can draw down systematically during the gap period. The idea is simple. You know the gap is coming, so you save specifically for it. Rather than raiding your IRA or 401k before you're ready, you have a designated account that covers those years. The second approach is Roth ladder conversions, converting pre-tax IRA or 401k money to Roth over the gap years when your income is lower. This can reduce your future tax burden while giving you tax-free income later. And the third is part-time or consulting work. For some people, this isn't just financial. It's a way to stay engaged and transition gradually into full retirement. Even modest part-time income during those gap years can dramatically reduce how much you need to draw from your savings.
There's another dimension to the income gap that doesn't get enough attention, the Social Security decision. When people run out of money during the gap or get nervous about running out, they often claim Social Security earlier than they'd planned, and that decision is permanent. Claiming at 62 instead of 67 can reduce your monthly benefit by 30% or more. Over a 25 or 30-year retirement, that difference is substantial. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars in lifetime income that are given up. So the income gap and the Social Security decision are deeply connected. If you can fund the gap from other sources, a bridge account, part-time work, a spouse's income, you protect your ability to delay Social Security and lock in a higher lifetime benefit. That's why planning the gap specifically in advance is one of the highest value things you can do for your retirement.
Or thing worth mentioning, the income gap affects couples differently depending on when each spouse retires. If one spouse retires at 62 and the other continues working until 65, you have a partial gap. You still have income coming in, but less than before. Health insurance might be covered through the working spouse's employer. Social Security for both spouses might still be delayed. But if both spouses retire at the same time before 65, the gap is fully exposed. All income stops. Healthcare needs to be replaced for both. Social Security decisions become more urgent. For blended families, there's often an additional layer of complexity: different ages, different benefit amounts, different timelines, which makes planning the gap even more important to do intentionally rather than figuring it out as you go.
So here's what we want you to take away from this. The retirement income gap is real, it's predictable, it's plannable. If you know you want to retire before 65, before Medicare, before Social Security, the decision isn't whether the gap exists, it's whether you've built a plan to bridge the gap. That means knowing how much the gap will cost you, accounting for health care specifically, building a dedicated source of funds for those years, and protecting your ability to delay Social Security so you lock in the highest potential lifetime benefit. The gap doesn't have to derail your retirement timeline, but it does need to be in the plan.
Hiring before 65 is absolutely possible. Thousands of people do it successfully every year. The difference between the ones who do it well and the ones who struggle is almost always the same: planning. Not optimism, not luck, planning. Know your gap, build your bridge, and retire on your terms.